Greetings and welcome to Roman of the Empire. I'm your host, Roman. Now, you may not have realized it, but I love superheroes. So when I talk about the current state of the MCU, I talk about it from someone who has a vested interest in superhero movies. There's something that growing up, we didn't really have a lot of. We had the Christopher Reeve films and then the Batman films. Some of them hold up better than others. But it really wasn't until Marvel came out with Iron Man that everything started moving in a direction that was just spectacular. So we had Iron Man, which was the one bookend and Endgame at the other. The majority of those movies were just so good. They brought your comic book heroes off the page, put them on to the big screen, live action, and it was just amazing. They looked like they were supposed to look. They acted like they did in the comic books, with some varying degrees. But by and large, you got what you were expecting out of those. Now, sadly, all things come to an end. At the end of the Infinity Saga, after Endgame, the Marvel Universe changed. So things can end quickly, things can die off slowly, and that's what it seems like the MCU is doing, is just a slow death. The Disney Plus shows, which are part of the MCU, have largely been a disappointment. Loki was terrible, with the exception, I guess, of Alligator Loki. I thought he was funny. But you deballed your biggest villain. This was Avengers era Loki. This wasn't kind, giving hugs at, in Thor Ragnarok Loki. This was, I'm a badass Loki, and they just took his balls, cut him off, and he was a guest on his own show, as you probably heard on a lot of other reviewers, and that's a very accurate thing. WandaVision started off okay. It was weird, but then it just came apart like a bad spell, and it was, by the end of it, it was dreadful. Then we had Falcon and Winter Soldier, which should have been really cool. I love both of these characters, but somehow they managed to make them dull, and the villains on the show, the super soldiers, who didn't look anything like super soldiers, sucked. They were just not good. They weren't good villains. So it didn't, by the end of it, it's like, I just don't care. So now we'll look at the what if, the what if series. I've actually enjoyed that. Now, of course, that's animated. It's still part of the MCU, but it's animated. But I've actually enjoyed that. There's been a couple of episodes that I thought were but by and large, I have really enjoyed that. The next one coming up is the zombie episode, which I'm really looking forward to. I thought Marvel Zombies was a hoot. I like zombies as well. And I know it's a trope that's kind of played out, but it's still fun to see something that came out in the comic form being used in these stories. So the movies, post Endgame. So Iron Man is gone. Captain America is gone. Black Panther, sadly, due to the death of Chadwick Boseman, is gone. I know they're planning on doing, his sister's going to be playing the Black Panther, and I just have no interest in seeing that. That's not Black Panther. So now you're looking at, you don't have your big A-listers anymore. We'll talk about Thor in a second. But your big A-listers are gone. You're looking at, your C and D team is what's left. So the Black Widow movie, man, that could have been great 5 years ago. It would have been great. But now they've made a movie about a dead character, a prequel about a dead character. There's really there's, how this ends. She's not there anymore. She's another one of your big players. It's off the board, and I don't think they did the character. They certainly didn't do Scarlett Johansson any favors by waiting till the character was dead to make her movie. That's stupid. That's bad. That's a bad marketing idea, Marvel. Shange-Chi. don't care. I literally do not care about this movie. It's a movie about a character I don't know. There are things that draw you into the theater. If you know the character, that's usually a pretty big draw. So if you're making a movie about a character that most people haven't heard of, you really need to make it look good. The Eternals. Don't care. It's almost worse than don't care. So if you're familiar with the comic book version of the Eternals, which a lot of you probably aren't, the film version, they've deviated from their making it look like the comic book version. They've swapped a lot of things around on these characters, and they're really not the team that was in the comics. And again, so it's a team, and like I said, a lot of people don't really know them, which again is not a draw, and it doesn't look interesting. Again, just don't care. So they've taken Guardians of the Galaxy. They took a risk on Guardians of the Galaxy. That's another pretty fringy group. But they made that movie look fun. They made it look cool. It had a great soundtrack, and they threw all that at you in the PR. And okay, we're going to check it out. And and that ended up being a huge hit. Same idea, but their approach to it was very different, and it made people want to see the movie, unlike these. So now there's Thor. He's one of the big three. Problem is, Thor Love and Thunder, which is going to be coming out probably next year sometime. I don't even know what the schedule is anymore with anything. It doesn't matter. They've used the basis for one of the least successful, least popular comic book storylines from Thor that almost tanked the character. They almost ended up getting rid of it because this was such a train wreck of a storyline. And they're using that in their now fledgling, failing, crumbling MCU. Don't know. Is it going to work? Maybe it will. I liked Thor Ragnarok. A lot of people didn't like Thor Ragnarok. I thought it was funny and enjoyable, but it wasn't for everyone. Maybe because they used storylines that work. Like Planet Hulk was the basis for that one, if you're familiar with that story. But they're using the Jane Foster becomes Thor bit, and like I said, it was an abomination as a comic, very unpopular. So why do you want to use that for your trying to save the MCU? Which, because a lot of stuff that they're going to be churning out just doesn't look that good. So it's a lot like Marvel just doesn't care anymore. They've seemed to have lost interest in making cool movies. They're making movies, but I don't know who they're making them for. Certainly not the fan base. So if Marvel doesn't care, it's really hard for the fans to. Just wanted to talk about this a little bit. As a superhero fan, I'm a little saddened by the state of the superhero universe. I am Roman of the Empire, signing off. Be kind.